Keep your voice up nice and loud. Thank you. May I, Your Honor?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you state your name and please spell us your last name?
Harrison Schmidt, Schmidt.
And where do you work, sir?
Cohasset Police Department,
And how long have you worked there?
13 years.
What is your current rank there?
Sergeant.
When did you become a sergeant?
Early January 2023.
What was your rank as of January 4th, 2023?
Detective.
With the Cohasset Police Department, how many officers are on that PD?
About 22.
And how many detectives are there?
One detective and one detective supervisor.
As a detective, what were your responsibilities?
General investigations.
And in addition to being a detective at Cohasset Police Department, were you affiliated with any other law enforcement agencies?
I'm a member of the Metrolec SWAT team.
And can you describe for us what Metrolec is, sir?
It's a consortium of departments that share resources and personnel to form specialized teams.
And within the SWAT team, do they have any function as far as searches?
They do. They have a search and rescue team.
And what involvement do you have with that?
If they need searchers, they will pull from the SWAT team.
And, sir, how many fatal investigations have you worked?
Dozens.
And how many missing person cases have you worked?
Just over a dozen, probably.
And have you been able to locate all of those people?
No.
How many of those people have been deceased when you've done an investigation?
Several.
And what were some of the reasons for why they were deceased?
Medical issues, suicide, exposure to the elements.
Now, are you familiar with the investigation to the disappearance of Anna Walshe?
Yes.
And how are you familiar with that investigation?
I was called in to assist patrol in a missing persons investigation.
When was that?
The 4th of January.
About what time?
3 or 3:30.
And when you say you were called in, where did you go as a result of being called in?
I went to Cohasset Police headquarters.
And when you got to the Cohasset Police headquarters, what did you do as far as trying to set up an interview with Mr. Walshe?
I tried to coordinate an interview for that night.
And were you able to?
Yes.
What time did you set up the interview for?
6 or 6:30 p.m.
And why was it 3 hours after you got to the station?
He had to get dinner for his children.
Now, that afternoon, sir, did you do anything to try and locate Miss Walshe?
Yes.
What were you trying to do?
I reviewed the reports I coordinated with the patrol officers that initially responded. I performed queries through law enforcement databases, and then I went to the residence.
Now, I have just a few questions about that January 4th interview. At the January 4th interview with Mr. Walshe, what interaction did you have with him as far as him showing you his cell phone?
He gave me a cell phone to look at.
And what did he say?
He said there was about a year of text messages with Anna Walshe that I could look at, and about 1,000 photographs.
And did you look at the phone that night?
I did.
For about how long?
3 to 5 minutes.
And that night, did you have the opportunity to make any observations of any of the cars at the family home?
Yes.
What car did you look at?
There's a Volvo XC90.
And did you get any permission to look at that car?
Yes.
And who'd you get the permission from?
Mr. Walshe.
And what did you notice about the Volvo?
In the trunk, the trunk was lined with like plastic sheeting.
And so were you able to open it at this point in time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, sir, fast forwarding to January 5th, which was a Thursday, what did you do to try and locate Miss Walshe that day?
I did a lot that day.
Let me just go back for a second.
I apologize.
There was I'll do this from time to time. There was a plastic sheet, you said lining the rear area?
Yes.
Is that a trunk or is it more like an open area in the rear of an SUV?
The trunk area is a SUV with a hatch. So the trunk area, not the seating area.
Okay, thanks.
So
Go ahead.
not like a sedan though, which would have a separate distinct trunk. It has access to the seats.
Correct. If the seats would fold down, you could go from the trunk into the back row.
Okay.
So I'll call it a traditional SUV configuration?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
So I was asking you about January 5th and what you did to try and locate Miss Walshe on the 5th. Could you explain to us some of the things you did that morning?
I created and disseminated a missing persons bulletin. I began coordinating with friends and family. I checked for international travel and put a flag on her passport if she attempted to do international travel. I coordinated with taxi companies and rideshare and her employer.
Now, was anything done as far as canine searches of the area around the Walshe home?
Yes.
Can you describe for me what was done?
The Cohasset Police canine and handler searched the property.
And the Walshe property, can you describe how it's situated in relation to the roadway?
It's on Route 3A. It's a long driveway set back behind a used auto dealership. It's surrounded by woods. Maybe a quarter mile into the backyard is another neighborhood.
And so it's woods between those two neighborhoods.
Yes.
Was anything recovered during the canine search?
No.
Now, did you have the opportunity, or did the Cohasset PD have the opportunity to enlist any other law enforcement agencies on the 5th?
Yes.
What was done?
I reported to my supervisor, who requested additional resources from the State Police CPAC unit for Norfolk County.
And when, if any, if ever, did any resources from the State Police Detectives Unit arrive at Cohasset PD?
About 5 p.m. that Thursday.
And who arrived from the State Police Detective Unit?
Trooper DeChico and Sergeant Buchanan.
And once they arrived, what did you do with these two troopers?
I informed them of what was been done so far in the investigation, and we listened to the audio recording from the first interview.
After having this opportunity to review all this information with these officers, what, if anything, what was done at this point in time in the investigation?
We went to the residence.
Who went to the residence?
Myself, Detective Lieutenant Lopes, Sergeant Hunt, Trooper DeChico, and Sergeant Buchanan.
And about what time did you go to the residence?
8 p.m.
Did you do anything as far as contacting Mr. Walsh before you arrived at the residence?
I don't recall.
When you arrived at the residence, who was there?
Mr. Walsh was, his 3 children, and his mother.
Was anyone leaving the residence at this hour?
The nanny, Robin Howe, was leaving.
When you got to the residence, did you have the opportunity to conduct any further interviews?
Yes.
Who did you have the interview with?
Mr. Walsh.
Where did the interview take place?
In the dining room and kitchen area.
And can you describe the kitchen dining room area?
Open concept. If you walk into that portion of the house, dining room's on the left, kitchen's on the right. There's a large dining room table. There's window bench seating on one side and chairs on the other sides.
Where'd you sit?
I believe the window bench seat.
And did anyone else from law enforcement participate with the interview with you and Mr. Walsh?
Yes, Trooper DeChico.
And where was Sergeant Hunt?
Excuse me, Sergeant Hunt was also present.
And I take it you're all at the dining room table?
Yes,
So you had mentioned that Detective Lieutenant Lopes and Sergeant Buchanan also arrived there that night?
correct.
Where did they go?
They went on the other side of the staircase is a TV living room area, and they spoke with Mr. Walsh's mother.
Could you hear them talking to Mr. Walsh's mother?
Yes,
And during that interview, did the defendant have any access to his children?
yes, they were coming in and out of the interview.
Did the children give you anything that night?
They gave me a piece of art.
Now, have you had the opportunity to review the transcript from that interview?
Yes,
And have you had the opportunity to listen to the audio of that interview?
yes,
Does the audio fairly and accurately record that interview?
it does. However, there is background noise.
In regards to the transcript, is there anything missing as far as the how compared to the audio?
Yes, the background noise isn't included in the transcript.
Is not or is?
Excuse me, is not, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that interview go on for?
About an hour.
Did Mr. Walsh ask to take any breaks during that interview?
No,
What was his demeanor like during that interview?
he was calm and cooperative.
During that interview, what did he say that his normal contact would be with his wife, Anna Walsh, while she was working in Washington?
A daily contact.
During the interview, did you have the opportunity to ask him whether or not Anna was contemplating suicide?
Yes,
And what was his response to that?
she wouldn't do that.
What, if anything, did he say she was unhappy about?
Stress from work and distance.
And was he asked about extramarital affairs on either side?
Yes,
What did he say?
neither of them had extramarital affairs.
Did you ask, or was he asked on whether or not, if they had had an argument the morning she left January 1?
Yes,
What was his response?
there wouldn't have been enough time that morning.
What do you say the biggest argument they had had recently was?
She had a 2-week vacation scheduled, and instead of coming home, she was in Belgrade visiting her mother.
Now, did he say what was causing stress in their relationship at this point in time?
Yes,
What was causing stress?
the distance, being away from the children,
And in addition to the distance, were there any other stressors in the relationship?
prior legal issues.
So he told you that he had another criminal matter going on?
Yes,
What did he tell you as far as his last contact with his wife, Anna Walsh, was?
he was in bed sleeping. This would be the morning of the 1st. She gave him a kiss goodbye, went downstairs to get dressed and leave for work.
And did he tell you what his oldest child told him was his last contact with Anna Walsh?
Yes,
What did he say his oldest child told him?
he said the oldest child was on the couch with an iPad, and Anna Walsh had come down, say goodbye to him, and then left in a vehicle. However, that car did not come up the driveway to the house.
Now,
Just for context here, this prior legal matter is that he pled guilty to forging, what do you call it, Andy Warhol works. So, not violent crimes, not domestic violence. I can't find anything that says there were domestic violence in this case, but if you know about it, please share it. But I can't find it. So, I mean, just by that, does he have a criminal past? Yes, but nothing violent. So more or less, he goes from 0 to what the state claims: dismembering, murder, dismembering, hiding. That's quite a leap, folks. That's quite a leap.
During the interview, who asked to look through the defendant's phone?
Trooper DeChico.
What did he say?
has to look through-
Oh, DeChico. We know about him. He was involved in the Karen Reed case too. Also regarding phones. Isn't that strange? Isn't that strange? It's almost as it becomes a pattern.
The contents and download the phone.
Now, when he asked to look through the phone, what was the defendant's response?
He said, "Let me get this straight. You want to download all the contents to my phone?"
And what did Trooper DeChico say in response to that?
Yes, all of the contents.
And what concerns did the defendant have after Trooper DeChico said that?
His prior legal issues.
And did he say who he wanted to talk to about this?
His attorney.
And did he say how long it would take for him to get in touch with his attorney and get back to law enforcement about going through his phone?
Yes, he would know likely the next day.
And what did he say his desire was as far as having his phone downloaded?
He said, "This is my intention and declaration."
And to be clear, that was also including his desire to speak to his attorney and get permission first, to have a conversation with her, right?
Yes.
Did Trooper DeChico say why he wanted to look through the defendant's phone?
Yes, we wanted to establish a permanent timeline and get a tone of Anna.
During the interview, was there any conversation about conducting a forensic interview of the children?
Yes.
What was discussed?
We explained what it was, and we had scheduled one for the following day at 10 a.m.
After the interview, what was done as far as searching the home?
We got consent from Mr. Walsh to search the home.
And when you got consent, what areas of the home did you check?
What kind of consent was it? Sgt Schmidt? What was the written consent or verbal consent? And yeah, we might get into this later.
The entire home.
And what access did you have to the attic?
We checked the attic.
Did you find anything in the attic?
Nothing of remark.
And what, if anything, did you notice between the attic and the bedroom of Mr. Walsh?
There was a hole in the drywall in the ceiling.
Now, besides looking inside the home, did you have access to the pool?
Yes.
And what was done as far as looking at the pool that night?
We used flashlights to look into the pool again.
And you say again, did you have the opportunity to look at it the night before?
Yes.
Was anything ever recovered from the pool?
No.
And now, that night, did you have the opportunity to look into any of the vehicles again?
Yes.
Which vehicle?
The Volvo XC90.
And the Volvo XC90, who gave you permission to look into it?
Mr. Walsh.
And what was noticed as far as anything inside? What did you notice about the Volvo that night on the 5th?
Inside was a receipt from Lowe's dated the 4th, and there was a cell phone.
Did Mr. Walsh tell you who the phone belonged to?
His oldest son.
After having the opportunity, well, in addition to looking at the house, looking outside the house, did you go to anywhere else as far as at that address to look around for Miss Walsh?
We checked the trash barrels that line the driveway.
Did you find anything in the trash barrels?
No.
After doing all that, where'd you go?
Back to Cohasset Police Headquarters.
What did you do back at Cohasset Police Headquarters?
We attempted to contact financial institutions that might have recent activity.
And about what time do you think you got back to Cohasset PD?
Approximately 10:30 p.m. maybe.
So now on January 6th, Friday, what happened to the forensic interview of the children?
It was canceled.
And what was done by state police to bring in more resources?
A large-scale search was started. We brought in command posts, the state police search and rescue team, the metro search and rescue team, and area detectives on mutual aid.
Now, did anyone conduct a press conference on January 6th from your department?
Yes.
Who?
Chief Quigley.
And how do you characterize this case at the press conference?
A missing persons investigation.
On January 6th, did you have the opportunity to speak to anyone who saw Anna Walsh and Brian Walsh on December 31st?
Yes.
Who'd you speak to?
Jem Mutlu.
And
What's the last name?
Mutlu, Your Honor.
can you spell
Mutlu.
it? And where did this conversation occur?
Cohasset Police Headquarters.
And who was with you for this conversation?
Trooper Chico.
During this conversation, what did he tell you as far as his relationship to Anna Walsh?
Previous co-worker and friend.
And what time did he get to the, does he believe he got to the Walsh home that night on New Year's Eve?
I don't recall what time he got there.
Did he say what interaction he had with the children that night?
Yes.
What interaction did he have with the children that night?
The oldest child had come down the stairs, and he took a photo with the oldest child and Anna Walsh.
And did he say whose phone they took it with? If you remember.
I don't recall.
And after the oldest child came downstairs, was there any further interaction with the children?
No.
What time did he say he left?
After 1 a.m. between 1 and 1:30.
What did he say the demeanor was of everyone there?
Good.
Now, who on January 6th was working on speaking with Mr. Walsh's attorney about getting access to his cell phone?
Sergeant Buchanan.
And do you know if any digital devices
How
were
about
obtained
that?
from Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
What day?
Sergeant Buchanan has. Yeah, now we have his name. We know he testifies later in this hearing.
Friday.
The 6th?
Friday the 6th.
And were you there when they were obtained?
No.
Now, do you know when those devices were returned?
Saturday.
The 7th.
Correct.
Now, did you have the opportunity to speak with the defendant again on January 7th?
I did.
Approximately what time?
2 p.m.
And where did this conversation take place?
His residence again.
And who was at the residence when you had this conversation with him?
His attorney.
And do you know her name?
Attorney Tracy Minor.
In addition to yourself, the defendant, and Attorney Minor, was anyone else there for the interview?
Yes.
And who else was there?
Trooper Chico and Trooper Proctor.
Now, did you
Trooper Ticino and Trooper Proctor. Now do you understand why I wanted to look into this case? Disgraced and fired and probably planting evidence Trooper Proctor. We have Trooper Buchanan, who protects Trooper Proctor and thinks, oh, Trooper Proctor did nothing wrong. Because, in my opinion, Trooper Buchanan is equally, if not worse. And these folks is pure laziness and incompetence from Mass State Police. They could have had warrants, solid warrants at more or less any point in time, but they are morons, medically, in my opinion, medical morons, and lazy and incompetent. So they say, who needs a warrant? We'll just make something up later. And this is, I believe, it's what's happening in this hearing.
have the opportunity to hear the recording of that interview?
Yes.
And does it fairly and accurately depict the interview as it occurred that day on January 7th?
Yes.
Did you have the opportunity to review the transcript?
Yes.
And does the transcript fairly reflect the audio recording?
It does.
Is there anything missing?
There's certain discernible parts, and at one point in time, a dog's barking in the background that's not in the transcript.
And, Your Honor, the Commonwealth would be seeking to mark those as exhibits, which is already in the binder, but for the record, those are chapters 7 and 8, Your Honor. 7 would be the audio file, 8 would be the transcript, and there's a drive in the binder that has all 4 audio files, Your Honor.
Is that this?
Yes, Your Honor.
You said that was just exhibits, or is marked as tab 7 and 8. And so what's on here is 7, 8, and the previously identified, what was it, 1, 2?
So the audio, the drive would have exhibit 2, for the January 4th interview, exhibit 5.
Hi, Lokong. This is the case of Brian Walsh. He is accused of ending, dismembering, and getting rid of his wife. They still haven't found the body. Recognize that from somewhere, Lokong? No body, no blood, just something weird on the phone. And in this case, they didn't have a warrant to search through Mr. Walsh's phone. Now, on the phone is some really disturbing shit. Really, really disturbing. But, folks, it doesn't matter. Because if they just put it in an affidavit, bring it to the judge, they would have gotten a warrant. It's really easy to get a warrant. And so, yeah. So that's the big difference between this case and Zachariah Anderson's case. Because in Zachariah Anderson's case, there is literally zero evidence. Here in this case, there is evidence, but the cops got it probably illegally.
Which would be the January 5th interview, and at this point in time, exhibit 7, the January 7th interview.
Okay. And I listened to the interviews that were on the drive that you gave. Are those the same that I listened to?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, yeah. This judge, thank you for reminding me, View Galaxy. The judge in this case prosecuted public corruption before she became a judge. How about that?
Any objection to 7 and 8?
No, Your Honor.
All right, great, thanks.
Hi,
Sergeant,
Caroline.
I'd like to ask you questions about this interview now. Are you familiar with what Viber is?
Yes.
What is Viber?
Communication app.
And what is WhatsApp?
Also a communications app.
What did the defendant say that Ms. Walsh had as far as access to Viber and WhatsApp?
She would use those apps.
And are you familiar with Instagram?
Yes.
And what is Instagram?
Social media platform.
And what access did the defendant say that Ms. Walsh had to Instagram?
She would use them.
I imagine Facebook is something similar to Instagram.
Yes.
And what access did he say she had to Facebook?
She would use Facebook.
What access did the defendant have to Ms. Walsh's passwords when you were talking to him?
They shared some financial passwords.
And what access did she have to, well, first off, what is Venmo?
Venmo is an app that you can transfer money to and from.
And what
I don't have Venmo because I'm not in the United States. I do have PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee. If you don't want to support the channel via super chats and gifted memberships and stuff, you have that option.
access did she say that she had to Venmo?
She has Venmo.
But as for now,
Now,
I'm happy if you
In
subscribe
addition
and
to
like
these
this stream.
applications, what did he tell you as far as financial institutions she would use?
They would use Apple Credit Union, Liberty Bay, Fidelity, Chase, and a JetBlue credit card.
And how would she conduct her finances?
Online banking.
During the interview, at any point in time, did attorney minor interrupt the defendant?
Yes.
And what did she say when she interrupted him?
Don't talk about our communications.
Now, did the defendant tell you how he would obtain permission to leave the home when dealing with federal authorities?
Through email.
And what would he do as far as contacting them via email? What would he ask?
There was a scheduled time, and requests need to be made 72 hours out. And if there's an emergency request would have to be through email.
And did he say anything as far as your ability to review those emails?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said we could review those emails.
And what did attorney minor say at this point in time?
We could review those emails.
Now, what did the defendant tell you as far as his whereabouts on January 1st, 2023?
He was home.
And did he leave the home at any time?
Yes.
Where did he go?
He went to Shaw's to get orange juice and milk.
And once he went to Shaw's and got those items, where did he go?
He returned home.
Did he leave the home again on January 1st?
Yes.
Where did he say he went?
To visit his mother at 330 Paradise Road in Swampscott.
Did he say what happened on his way to Swampscott?
He got lost.
Did, in addition to going to visit his mother, did he go to anywhere else in that area?
Yes, he went to Whole Foods and CVS.
Did he, and besides those stores, did he tell you any other locations he went to on the 1st?
There was discussion of possibly going to Walgreens.
Now, what did he tell you as far as where he went on January 2nd?
To Norwell to get ice cream with his son.
And during this interview, did anyone ask him about the name Richard Walker?
Yes.
Who asked about Richard Walker?
Trooper DeChico.
And did he know Richard Walker?
No.
What was the significance to you at this point in time of the name Richard Walker?
I had received an email with a ransom request from an email address with the name Richard Walker.
And when had you received this email in relation to the interview that you were conducting with the defendant at this point in time on January 7th?
Before.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
So this is the infamous
So I'm just
ransom
showing
note
you a
they
copy
believe
of a document.
Mr. Walsh wrote himself.
Yes,
Is that the email you received from the Richard with the name Richard Walker attached to it?
it is.
The Commonwealth would seek to have this marked as the next exhibit. It's in the binder, Your Honor, and before I try and admit it twice, it's
Ah, Skillet Pan is here for the rescue. He found a 2014 incident report. Is domestic abuse claims. He said he wanted to kill her, apparently. Okay, so there is 9 years prior to this, one event. Okay. Thank you.
Exhibit 9.
Thank you. Any objection?
No objection. Did you read the body of the email?
We have the so named Anna Walsh with us here. We had a deal worth $127,000. She messed up. We have her here with us, and if she doesn't pay the money, then she'll never be back. And we know that the police and the FBI are involved. Good luck finding us.
I'm going to have that back. Besides Trooper DeChico mentioning that name once, was there any further discussion of Richard Walker or the substance or even the substance of the email?
No.
Now, what did the defendant tell you as far as Mrs. Walsh's use of Uber or Lyft?
That she would use them Uber 1 and Lyft 2.
As her preferences?
Yes.
While you were conducting the interview, did anyone arrive?
Yes.
Who arrived?
Abdullah.
And what happened once that gentleman arrived?
Attorney Minor advised Mr. Walsh to get him to leave.
And what did Mr. Walsh do?
He went to the door and got him to leave.
And was the defendant ever asked how Anna Walsh would communicate if she lost her cell phone?
Yes.
What did he say?
He didn't know at first.
And then did anyone ask him about using an iPad?
Yes.
And what did he say if Anna had lost her phone, how she would communicate using an iPad?
He said that's right. She would use an iPad.
Now, what did the defendant tell you as far as how Anna would communicate with JetBlue?
He related they wouldn't have good luck calling, so she would use the chat function on the online website.
And did Attorney Minor have any comments at this point in time about contacting JetBlue via the online chat function?
Yes, she said that she uses JetBlue and uses the online website chat feature.
And did the defendant have any questions for you at this point in time accessing this information?
Yes, he asked if we had reviewed the JetBlue chatter.
Now, was there ever a discussion of Anna Walsh making a brunch reservation for January 1st?
Yes.
And the defendant didn't have any knowledge of a brunch reservation at this point in time, correct?
Yes.
But did he say how she would have made that reservation if she was going to?
Through the apps Resi or OpenTable.
Now, how long was this interview?
About 2 hours.
And after that interview was over, what did you do?
We checked the area for security footage to try and corroborate any vehicles coming or going.
And so how do you do that?
Neighborhood canvas.
Now, were you ever informed about the contents of any of the digital devices on January 7th, that's Saturday?
Yes.
About what time were you informed?
6:30 p.m.
And how were you informed?
Phone call.
From who?
One of the CPAC troopers.
Do you remember which one at this point in time?
No.
And what were you notified of?
There was suspicious browser history.
And that person, I believe, is a name you also recognize. I believe it's Trooper Guarino, also known from both the Karen Reed case and the Sandra Birchmore case. You know, the woman they tried to frame for murder, and the woman who was groomed by a cop from age 13. See a pattern here? Now, it might be that they are actually doing a stellar job here. They just forgot about warrants, which by definition tells me they did not do a stellar job. They were incompetent, lazy bastards. I mean, every cop here seems to be very, very suspicious about there's something wrong about Brian Walshe. Why not just do normal cop work? Write down your suspicions, what you actually have on an affidavit. Find a judge who rubber stamps search warrants and get the fucking search warrant. But no, these morons thought, nah, we don't need no stinking warrant.
This is January 7th. And now I want to ask you some questions about January 8th. Okay. On the morning of January 8th, did you have the opportunity to be present when a search warrant was executed in Cohasset?
Yes.
Where was it executed?
The residence.
516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
Correct.
And who was executing the search warrant?
The CPAC unit with conjunction with the Cohasset Police.
And who was home at the residence when the search warrant was executed?
Mr. Walshe, the 3 children, and his mother.
Now, when the warrant was executed, did anyone arrive to assist Mr. Walshe after the warrant was first served?
Attorney Minor.
About how long did it take for her to arrive?
15 minutes.
And once Attorney Minor arrived, what was done with the family of Mr. Walshe?
We moved car seats around so they could leave the premises with Attorney Minor.
And did you ever have the opportunity to participate in a 4th interview of the defendant on that day, Sunday, January 8th?
Yes.
And where did that occur?
Attorney Minor's residence in Situate.
And about what time did that occur?
About 11 a.m.
And who was present for that interview?
Myself, Trooper Chico, Trooper Proctor, Attorney Minor, and Mr. Walshe.
And
Trooper Proctor.
During the interview, what was discussed?
Yeah, Trooper Proctor is about to fuck up a very large amount of investigations because now we know he's an incompetent fool. Now we know what kind of person he is. He's so vile that not even the cop union could save him. Now, the cop union in Boston are trying to get him his job back. Folks, I'm a union guy. For a union, there's a few things you have to have. You have to have the collective agreement, you have to have the members, and you have to have the confidence of the public, the credibility. When unions protect bad apples over the credibility of the union, over the collective agreement, you can only, then how can you trust them when they say, oh, that's not a bad cop, when they are actively trying to get a corrupt motherfucker back on the force? Like Trooper Proctor. How can you? The trust we have as union guys is once it's gone, it's gone. So I don't understand. Dear cop union in Massachusetts, representing all Massachusetts state police and all the things, you don't have to protect the bad apples. You really don't. Because, and when you do, people assume it's because you are a bad apple too. And that's not good.
The browser search history.
And what did the defendant say he would do with the iPad as far as helping the children?
He would put on spooky movies for him.
And did he say he did anything else with the iPad?
No,
How long did this interview go on for?
just over 10 minutes.
Who stopped the interview?
Attorney Minor.
And once the interview was terminated by Attorney Minor, what did you do?
I shut off the recorder and we left.
And did you ever have the opportunity to see Mr. Walsh again that day?
Yes,
About what time?
4 p.m.
And where did you see him?
Attorney Minor's residence.
And what were you doing at Attorney Minor's residence at 4 p.m. on January 8th, Sunday?
I placed him in custody.
And where was he taken to once he was placed into custody?
Cohasset Police Headquarters.
He was booked there?
He was.
Ma'am, moment you're on?
You may.
Hold on. I'm going to go over a couple of things that I may have missed. On January 4th, which was Wednesday, the first day you met Mr. Walsh, what did he say to you about looking at anything on his phone?
We could look at anything if it would help.
And on the 5th, and actually, I'll ask this in the 4th. Did he ever tell you what access Anna had of his phone on January 4th?
On the 4th, he said that Anna would use his device, or excuse me, would use his phone, and that she would send photos from his phone to herself if she liked them.
And on the 5th, what did he say as far as Anna's access to his phone? When now you're with the Trooper Chico on the second day.
Is there a transcript portion that would refresh my memory?
You're saying your memory's exhausted at this point in time?
It is.
All right. I think that we can, I'll come back to it and find that portion of the transcript. I'm going to ask you a couple other questions in the meantime. On the 5th, how did you get the Volvo open?
He provided the keys to us.
And what was the difference in the Volvo from the 4th to the 5th?
The plastic sheeting in the trunk was not there.
When you arranged the interview for when you arranged interviews with the defendant, how would you do it? Would you call him? Would you just show up? What was your process?
Both occurred.
And who was the person that canceled the forensic interview of the children on January 6th?
Mr. Walsh.
Are you aware of what time Mr. Walsh's devices were returned to him on January 7th?
Would have been around the time of the interview.
Before it began?
Before it began.
And did he describe for you on that Saturday, January 7th interview of what happened as far as getting lost that day going to his mother's residence?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
He said he did not have his cell phone with him, so he took the wrong route.
And what did he say as far as the location of his cell phone from January 1 into January 2?
His children had moved it. He didn't know where it was.
And, sir, concerning the 4th interview that you had with the defendant on January 8th, was that recorded?
Yes.
And did you have the opportunity to review that recording?
Yes,
And is it a fair and accurate representation of that interview?
it is.
And was there a transcript created of that interview?
Yes,
And does it fairly reflect that audio recording?
it does.
And Your Honor, so I would be moving to enter in as the exhibits 11 and 12 in the binder as the audio file and the transcript for the January 8th interview.
Any objection to that? Okay, then.
And one moment, Your Honor.
Certainly.
As far as the location of where people were seated on the January 4th and the January 5th interview, so we're talking about those first two. Was there any difference as far as how where people were?
I was seated in a chair for the first one. I think I was on the bench. I was on the bench for the second one.
But everyone was around the dining room table,
Correct.
and everyone was seated.
Yes.
And one more moment, Your Honor. Oh, and apparently I've neglected to enter in one of the transcripts, Your Honor. I apologize. And the audio. So Exhibit 5 and 6, according to the binder.
So I did this now because YouTube allows me to gift 10 free memberships each month. I can gift 5 at a time. And this is what I did right now. Since there's a bunch of you in the chat and viewers, and you should be rewarded for that. And the memberships were gifted to Caroline, Fire and Ice, Julie, Book Hermit, and M169. Congratulations, you now have access to all my members only stuff. You have access to your own emojis, and I will post the link to my Discord on my membership thing on the YouTube, whatever it's called. Yeah. So, dun dun dun. There you go. Oh, this Susan. Thank you for covering this case. No, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here.
So I'm going to just ask the officer this for the record. Have you had the opportunity to review the audio from the January 5th, 2023 interview?
Yes,
And does it fairly and accurately reflect that interview?
it does.
And that transcript, have you seen that of that interview?
Yes,
And does it accurately reflect the audio of that interview?
it does.
And as far as any problem, is there anything missing in the transcript compared to the audio?
For the 5th,
Yes, sir.
there was background noise. You could hear you could hear Mr. Walsh's mother speaking in the background, and Sergeant Buchanan.
Only 43 likes on the stream? Seriously? What's going on here? Let's see here. I actually see 97. Refresh the stream and you can see it. But there's 124 watching, which means that about 25, 30 of you haven't done your job. Put the thumbs up, folks. Put the thumbs up. You know the drill. You know the drill.
Just want to make sure we don't have a glitch here.
Yes, I appreciate that, Your Honor. I think I've followed things up.
So I see in the binder that the has now been marked. Exhibit 4 is the transcript of the interview. What's marked as Exhibit 4 in this binder is the transcript of the interview of 1/7/23, and what's marked as Exhibit 5 is the transcript.
And I think that the reason for that, Your Honor, is that the audio files.
Something's not right here.
Yes, I think the audio files take us out of order.
Well, I just want to make sure, I mean, you were talking about Exhibit 5 and 6, and I happen to have the binder open, and so 6 is now the email from Mr. Walker,
Yes.
or Richard Walker. So I just want to make sure that I have the numbers appropriately, both in terms of what you're putting into evidence. We
And I
can clean
think
up the binder later, that's fine.
Yes. And I think I know what happened, Your Honor. It's that I put them in an order that included the audio files, but the audio files aren't like a hard exhibit to label in the binder.
So
it's skipping over numbers as a result of the audio files.
so
I can work with counsel and clean it up.
that'll be good.
And so with that, though, I do believe at this point in time, thanks to co-counsel, that I've marked the transcripts and the audio files of the 4 interviews.
Okay,
So I do believe that they're in evidence.
and there's no objection to any of those 4 interviews, the audio tape and the transcript.
There's not.
Thank you.
So I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, cross-examination.
All right, cross-examination.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Were you present on January 6th of 2023 when devices were retrieved from Mr. Walsh?
No.
Were you present on January 7th of 2023 when the devices were returned to Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
When you talked on direct examination about this plastic sheet that was in the rear of the Volvo SUV, you were just asked a question a moment ago about how when you looked at the Volvo a second time on another day, the plastic sheet was missing.
Correct.
It's fair to say, and it's accurate to say, isn't it, that at that moment, Mr. Walsh was asked about the missing plastic sheet, and he pointed to the officers and said, "It's in the trash."
Yes.
Did you go and retrieve the plastic sheet in the trash?
No.
You've described, based on your review of the taped interviews that you were present for, that the taped interviews are an accurate representation of what happened, and the transcript is an accurate representation of what was stated during those interviews, correct?
Yes.
And you've said repeatedly that there was background noise, correct?
Correct.
And the background noise included dog barking, correct?
Yes.
And that dog's name is Luna?
Hans.
And it's the name of the
Dog's name is Hans?
Dog's name is Hans.
Okay.
The dog, when you listen to those tape recordings, you can hear that barking go on and off during different periods of time during the recording, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, when you listen to those recordings, you can hear other people talking in the background times. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's fair to say then that during these interviews that you testified to under direct examination, there were times when it was hard to even hear what was going on, correct?
Can you repeat that, please?
There were times during these interviews that you testified to on direct examination, and let's focus on the interview of January 5th and the interview of January 7th. There were times when it was even hard to hear everything that was going on.
Yes.
Folks, in a proper transcript, you can't just selectively choose what's going on. Now, if there's a dog barking in the background, that has to be included as dog barking in background. If some things are hard to hear, that has to be written out. This portion was a bit harder to hear if you do it properly. But it seems like Massachusetts State Police are allergic to proper procedure.
It's also accurate, isn't it, that when you began asking Mr. Walsh questions on January 5th, there is a statement that is made that people are very loud, made in the context of all this background noise.
I'm sorry. I don't understand. Was that a question?
But you said you reviewed the transcript, right?
I do. I just
And-
don't understand the question.
That, in fact, in the transcript, there's a specific reference to people being very loud.
I don't recall.
Of course you don't.
And as I'm looking for that, I'll just keep asking you questions until I find it. Page 19. Mr. Walsh showed you that he was having a hard time sleeping, correct?
Yes.
He said he was having a hard time thinking, correct?
Yes.
He told you that, this is on January 5th, he told you, I didn't sleep well last night.
Yes.
He told you, hopefully he tried to get some sleep that night, January 5th.
I don't recall that portion.
All right. And at one point, and now, your rank now is what?
Sergeant.
So start to call you Detective Sergeant Schmidt. At one point at the beginning of this interview, you in fact stated that you were getting distracted.
Which interview? I'm sorry.
January 5th. January 5th.
Yes.
And that distraction, once again, was the result of all this background noise and the dog barking and things like that.
Yes.
I want to jump to this email that was introduced into evidence regarding Richard Walker. When did you first come into possession of that email?
It was sent to me with the timestamp on the email. I believe it was early morning hours of the 7th.
Okay. You knew nothing about Richard Walker and this email before you received it?
Correct.
And once you received it, did you conduct some kind of investigation?
I notified my supervisors that I had received it.
When you refer, during this testimony regarding this motion, when you refer to supervisors, are you referring to Cohasset Police Department supervisors? Are you referring to Mass State Police?
Cohasset Police Supervisor.
Okay, and who would that be?
Detective Lieutenant Lopes.
Lopes.
Yes.
So Detective Lieutenant Lopes was your supervisor?
Correct.
Okay. So did you talk to Mr. Walsh on January 5th and ask him questions then about this Richard Walker email? And I gather the answer is no, correct?
What was
On
the date?
January 5th.
What was the date?
January 5th.
Okay.
Not on the 5th.
And you first asked him questions on January 7th, correct?
Trooper Chico did.
Okay, were you present?
I was.
And did you ask to look at his phone to see if he had any text messages or anything from Richard Walker?
Not specific to Richard Walker.
Okay.
Why not?
And that was the end of that conversation, basically, on January 7th regarding Richard Walker.
Yes.
You testified on direct examination that during the January 5th interview, at some
Yeah, Mia, at least we know that if you want to do a crime and get away with it, you should move to Massachusetts. Yes, move to Massachusetts, befriend a cop, and then apparently you can get away with more or less anything.
point, Trooper Chico asked if he could look at the contents of Mr. Walsh's phone.
Yes.
When he made that request, he being Trooper Chico, he didn't make any other request at that time to look at any iPad, correct?
Correct.
And he didn't make any type of request to look at anything like a map book or anything of that sort, correct?
Correct.
And when you testified on direct examination that Trooper DeChico said our words to the effect of we want to download the entire contents. You were talking about the entire contents of the cell phone?
Correct.
It was explained to Mr. Walsh, though, at that point, wasn't it, that what you were looking for, and when I say you, I'm talking about you and Trooper DeChico and people who were involved in this January 5th interview. You specifically told Mr. Walsh at that time that you wanted to look at information to try to understand on it.
Yes.
So you
And
lied.
you specifically said in that same sentence, and when I apologize, Trooper DeChico specifically said, look through your phone and consent to us downloading your phone and seeing some of the communications between you and her, correct?
Correct.
And her meaning Anna Walsh.
Yes.
And then you referred to on direct examination to the use of tone. Trooper DeChico said something about her tone, correct?
Yes.
Now, Sergeant Schmidt, fair to say, isn't it, that when Mr. Walsh is being told we want to look at the tone, I mean, what that references, isn't it, is to see if whatever communications you might find on the phone, if they were communications that showed some anger, or some happiness, or some argument, or something like that, correct?
Correct.
And So you wanted to see if the communications that you were talking to Mr. Walshe about at that moment, if they indicated something like any arguing going on between the two, or in fact the opposite. If the communications that they were talking to Mr. Walshe about were affectionate and showed no signs of arguing. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yes.
And Trooper DeChico then went further and said, yeah, we want to look at things like if there are things that were sent and received on your phone, correct?
Yes.
Sent and received, and that is in the context of communications, isn't it?
Yes.
This is really good by the defense attorney here. He's getting this cop to admit that everything they claim Mr. Walsh verbally gave them consent to was only regarding actual communications between Mr. Walsh and Mrs. Walsh. Not Google searches, not downloading the entire phone, just communications. Hello, Mr. Jingles.
Then this request of Mr. Walsh goes on, and Trooper DeChico then says, or asks Mr. Walsh, it'd be helpful if we can create a permanent timeline of the events of the 1st, the 31st, and the 1st, and maybe get a better insight into Anna, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh was asked, are you okay with that, correct?
I don't explicitly remember that part.
Do you remember Mr. Walsh saying anything of the sort? Like, just to be clear, you want to download everything on my phone?
Yes.
So it's fair to say that the first time Trooper DeChico mentioned downloading all the contents of the phone, Mr. Walsh began to ask questions about all the content? It's fair to say that, isn't it?
Correct.
At no time in this exchange that we just discussed in this cross-examination, this exchange that occurred on January 5th, when the subject was first brought up to look through Mr. Walsh's phone, there was no conversation or request to look at anything like location data, was it?
No.
You never said, and Trooper DeChico never asked if he could look at the phone contents for anything like search history or anything of the sort, correct?
Correct.
In fact, the only subject matter, the only characterization of the subject matter that Trooper DeChico talked about and asked Mr. Walsh about used the word communications, correct?
I think I'd have to refer to the transcript to make a definitive agreement with that.
Right? By the way, Judge, if I may, I apologize. I'd like to inquire if Trooper DeChico is in fact going to testify. I thought we were told he was, but I know today we weren't.
Well, we'll get to the,
I don't intend to call.
Then it's fair to say, isn't it, that when Mr. Walsh asked about the entire contents, he was told by Trooper DeChico that we will download, with the extraction, we'll download all the contents to your phone, yes, right?
Yes.
Trooper DeChico never stated that they were going to review or analyze or look at the entire contents of his phone, did he?
Correct.
And then Mr. Walsh said something to the effect of, that's a lot.
Yes.
And then it's fair to say, isn't it, that you said something to the effect of, well, what we're focusing on is, well, we're interested in, yes, it downloads everything. This is you talking. But what we're interested in is locating Anna and finding the information specifically in there that would help us do that. The Anna specific content, correct?
Yes.
And in that statement you made to Mr. Walsh, you never said anything. You, Sgt. Schmidt, you never said anything about looking at search history or location data or anything of the sort, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Walsh then, once again, said something to the effect of, well, that's a huge amount of data.
Yes.
He was asked about what his concern was, correct?
Yes.
And he actually first responded, I don't know. Correct?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall him being asked, right? Do you recall him being asked during this particular part of the January 5th, 2023 interview that he was asked, well, are there other legal issues? If you remember that. And if you don't, it's fine.
Trooper Chico did say that.
He asked him that.
He asked if it was the other legal issues.
And do you recall what Mr. Walsh responded?
In the affirmative.
He said that's one of them, correct? And if you don't remember, I don't want to put words in your mouth. If you don't remember, that's fine.
Correct. Yeah. Excuse me. I don't remember that exact exchange.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Page 40, line 15. Just going to show you these lines starting with line 13.
13.
Tracy talks a lot. Hey, folks, my regular viewers know this, but this is Mr. Jingles. Hello, Mr. Jingles. Mr. Jingles got his name because I took care of him and his brother. They were found in an abandoned barn. So a friend of mine took them in. Then he couldn't keep them, so I took them in. And Mr. Jingles got his name because I could put a necklace with a bell on him. Hence, Mr. Jingles. His brother was named Buster because when I tried to put a necklace with a bell on him, he busted up my arm. Now, Buster has moved across the field to my aunt, and he lives a very, very happy life there. And Mr. Jingles stayed here. So this is Mr. Jingles, of course, is the actual owner of this channel. Mr. Jingles, everything I do here is because he will eat me if I don't. So that is the short version of the story on how I got Mr. Jingles here. Or, well, Mr. Jingles took over the farm and I'm allowed to stay here.
What's the page number, Council?
Yes, page number
41.
I was just about to say that. No shirt in the box.
Still reading, sorry.
Having read that, does that refresh your memory?
It does.
And it refreshes your memory that at some point, Trooper Tajiko said, in fact, is it your other legal issues? And Mr. Walsh said, that's one of them.
Yes.
And in fact, while Mr. Walsh said, I'm willing to do anything, that his only request was basically to talk, he wanted to first talk to Tracy Minor, correct?
Correct.
Was that the first time, Sgt. Schmidt, that you became aware of the fact that Mr. Walsh was represented by counsel?
No.
When did you first learn that he was represented by counsel?
The interview on the 4th.
So you knew he had representation.
Were you provided contact information on January 4th of 2023 of Mr. Walsh's attorney?
No.
Did you ask for it?
No.
Did you learn about Mr. Walsh being represented by counsel through Mr. Walsh or some other source?
Mr. Walsh.
So when you learned that he was represented by counsel, Sergeant, did you pause and consider reaching out to his counsel instead of continuing to ask him questions?
At what point in time?
On January 4th, when you said you first learned about him being represented by Tracy Minor?
No.
So you knew he had representation and chose to ignore that and kept on having direct communications with Mr. Walsh. Momo Shark, hello, new to the channel. Hello, welcome, welcome. I hope you like it here. It is brim-filled with snark, with legal analysis, jokes, and on Fridays, I have the Wheel of Regrets. If you don't know what is Mr. Nick, what is the Wheel of Regrets? Well, this is the Wheel of Regrets, where I grift, you pay me to do those things. That is because I'm not a fan of covering cases and grifting at the same time. I don't mind it, but I'm bad at it. So I chose to have Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern, is where I do a bit more grifting and have more fun. Still talking about law and cases and stuff like that, but with more alcohol and more snark than usual. But not today. Not today. You can prepay for a spin on the Wheel of Regrets. It is a combined $50, either via super chats, gifted memberships, via PayPal, or buy me a coffee. All right, let's continue. And welcome. I hope you
But
stay.
on January 5th, when he told you his only request would be because Tracy Minor called me today about what's going on, you asked him, who is that?
Correct.
And that was on January 5th.
Correct.
So even though you asked Mr. Walsh on January 5th, who was that, when he used the name Tracy Minor, you're telling us today that you learned about Tracy Minor representing Mr. Walsh on January 4th.
No.
Okay.
If I may explain.
Oh, please do.
Mr. Walsh related that he had an attorney on the 4th. However, she was not named. I learned about the name on the 5th during that second interview.
Okay. But you did learn that he was represented by counsel on the 4th, is what your testimony is here today, then.
Yes.
So you found out, oh, you have representation. Now, a normal law-abiding cop would ask, what's the name of your attorney? So I can keep a tab on it. Not this, Yoho. No. Oh, you have an attorney. Good. All right. And then ignore it. Jesus Christ.
Is that exchange when you learned about Mr. Walsh being represented by counsel on January 4th, is that contained in the January 4th interview?
I don't recall.
No. Were there conversations other than with Patrol Officer Lawrence with Mr. Walsh on January 4th that contain statements that don't appear in the interview transcript or in any of the reports?
Yes.
And
Oh,
have you ever
really?
been asked to reduce to writing statements of Mr. Walsh that otherwise don't appear in your reports or Lawrence's reports or in the January 4th transcript of your conversations with him?
No.
What other statements can you tell this court about that Mr. Walsh made to you on January 4th that did not find their way into any report or into any transcript?
There's conversations about the house and rental property when we did the walkthroughs of the premises.
All right. Anything else that you recall?
Not at the moment.
All right. It's fair to say then that you remember of any other statements that do not appear in reports or in the transcript. Those were not statements that included Mr. Walsh saying, you can look at the entire contents of my phone, you can look at anything you want, or words to that effect, correct?
Correct.
By the way, Sergeant Schmidt, did you ever have any conversations with a district attorney named Glenn Beelan about this case?
I don't recall any.
All right. Do you know who Assistant District Attorney Lynn Beelan was or is?
Yes.
Okay. Have you interacted with her in other Norfolk County cases?
No.
So your conversations with Assistant District Attorney Beeland would be limited to this particular case or this investigation?
I don't recall any communications with her.
Okay, how about conversations?
Related to this case, no.
So I guess it's fair to say that you never had any conversations with Assistant District Attorney Lynn Beeland regarding any agreement to search any devices, correct?
Correct.
This defense attorney is really good because he is narrowing in each of the cops. He is narrowing in so that they can exclude that this particular person actually heard the alleged consent that Mr. Walsh had, that it doesn't appear in any transcripts or contemporaneous reports. This is good lawyering, folks. This is good lawyering.
Now, Mr. Walsh made it very clear to you during this question and answer during the interview on January 5th that he wanted to talk and needed to talk to his attorney, Tracy Myers, correct?
Yes.
Minor, correct?
Yes.
And he made it very clear that he had to talk to his attorney, Tracy Minor, before he agreed to anything about turning over his phone, correct?
Correct.
And once again, that discussion, when I just limited it to his phone, his iPhone, this discussion about talking to Tracy Minor didn't include any reference to searching any iPad or iPads or MacBooks, correct?
Not that he discussed with me.
So I'll return to the subject matter, but what I want to ask you, Sergeant Schmidt, is this. When you were there present with Trooper DeChico and you're interviewing Mr. Walsh on January 5th, and now you've already interviewed him earlier in the day before in the evening, as a police officer with training and experience, you would in fact be interested in looking at communications between Mr. Walsh and the missing spouse, correct?
Yes.
And it's fair to say, isn't it, that you'd also be interested in seeing, if you could, any communications that Mr. Walsh attempted to have with Anna Walsh after January 1st, correct?
Yes.
And you would be interested in looking for any communications of Anna Walsh attempting to contact her husband, Mr. Walsh, after January 1st, wouldn't you?
Yes.
And you would be interested, wouldn't you, in looking at communications that Mr. Walsh made to anyone after January 1st regarding the whereabouts of his wife, correct?
Can you just describe that one more time? I'm sorry.
You would be interested in looking at communications of Mr. Walsh trying to talk to others and inquire about the whereabouts of his wife, Anna Walsh.
Yes.
And in fact, Mr. Walsh told you, didn't he, that he had first reached out to Anna Walsh and tried to text her when his phone was found, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you were asked questions on direct examination about this phone, his phone being lost, you are aware of the fact, aren't you, that the phone was found by one of his young children, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, it was found after this nanny, I think you referred to her as Robin,
Robin.
after she had searched trash barrels and things looking for that phone, correct?
Yes.
And one of the reasons they were looking in trash barrels is because that had happened before, correct?
Correct.
The kids or one or more of Mr. Walsh's children had taken his phone or Anna's phone and put it in a trash can and hid it, correct?
Correct.
So not very nefarious, is it?
So getting back to your experience as a police officer and an investigator, it's fair to say, isn't it, that there would be interest in looking at communications from Mr. Walsh, not just on December 31st of 2022 and January 1st of 2023, but communications that went and extended past the 1st, possibly the 2nd, correct?
Yes.
Now, returning now to the specifics of the January 5th interview. One of the things that Mr. Walsh told you when you were asking about downloading the contents of his phone was, aside from there was an enormous amount of information and things like that, he said that he needed to talk to Tracy Minor, his attorney, to see if she might say, can we just do the information that you're asking for, correct?
Yes.
And up to this point, when that statement was made by Mr. Walsh, the only subject matter that had been discussed with him, either through you or Trooper DeChico, was communications, correct?
We talked about downloading all the contents of the phone and communications to set the tone.
Right, but I understand that. But once again, just going back to some earlier direct and cross-examination, when the comment was made, yes, we want to download the entire contents of the phone, either you or Trooper DeChico then immediately said, but really all we're looking for is information about Anna Walsh. And once again, you talked about communications, correct?
Yes.
So even if in the context of we want to download the entire contents of your phone, in the same context of that statement, it was made, we're looking for communications, correct?
Yes.
And we're looking for communications and Anna's tone, correct?
Yes.
Now, was there some explanation to Mr. Walsh at this point in the January 5th interview where Trooper DeChico starts telling Mr. Walsh something about your concerns? I think we need a search warrant for that information to be used against you. Do you remember that?
I do.
Now, can you tell the court why that was made at that time when Mr. Walsh was informing both you and Trooper DeChico that he had concerns about having you download all this information?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, were you trying to convince Mr. Walsh that whatever you found on the phone would not be used against him?
No.
Then what was the purpose of telling him that you would need to have a search warrant?
Objection.
Sustained. He didn't say it. The other guy did.
He didn't say it.
This witness didn't say it. How can he know what the other witness's intention was? Right?
Objection. He didn't say it.
He's hearing it just like everybody else, unless I've got the facts wrong. He's not the speaker. You have to ask the speaker what his intention was.
Okay, let me ask you. I understand.
That's why I'm sustaining the objection. Next question.
Let me ask you this. Do you know why Trooper DeChico at that moment in time made that comment about search warrants?
No.
Did you ever ask
No.
Trooper DeChico about that?
I did not.
Was it confusing to you?
No.
But you don't know why he asked it.
Correct.
This is so stupid. Of course he knows what it means. This is immensely stupid, because if one cop says the words search warrant around other cops, it is more or less, unless somebody says no, everybody is in agreement, there has to be a search warrant. But they're trying to loophole it, going the backdooring it around. Because January 4th and 5th, they, in my opinion, had enough suspicions and weirdness about this case to go write affidavits, explain your suspicions, get it on a probable cause, get a search warrant. But this is Massachusetts State Police, and it seems like they are all lazy, stupid morons who cannot for the life of them remember anything unless it's convenient for them. Hi, Terry. Says, like the judge, so much better than Auntie Bev. Oh yeah. Your cat is pretty. Yes. Yes, he is. Hello, Mr. Jingles. You want to show yourself to the audience? Oh, he likes this. He likes when I do this. Say hello to the audience. Hello. 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 Doesn't he look happy? Doesn't Mr. Jingles look happy when I do this? He does not look like he's going to give me another. Oh. Oh. Mr. Jingles is a survivor, by the way. He wants. I had a couple of 20-foot containers, which are rented to some neighbors because they were moving and they needed storage. Mr. Jingles decided he was going to explore one of them, and he stayed in there for 2 weeks. And then when they came back for the furniture, Mr. Jingles, a very skinny version of Mr. Jingles, appeared from that. Yeah, life is never boring on a farm.
Mr. Walshe did tell you that he used his phone for work, didn't he?
Yes.
And he did tell you, words to the effect of, he was concerned about how long you might have to have his phone, correct?
Yes.
And then he was informed that, oh, they have a mobile unit, maybe they can come out to your house, correct?
Yes.
And his response to that was great, wasn't it?
Correct.
So it's fair to say that Mr. Walshe was told that since he had concerns about how long they might have his phone, they could actually come out to his house and conduct the extraction at his home with a mobile unit, correct?
Correct.
And do you know, Sgt. Schmidt, if in fact they brought a mobile unit out to Mr. Walsh's home on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge.
And then Mr. Walshe tells both you and Trooper DeChico that his only request is to talk to Tracy, his attorney, and to let her know and to give her his risk exposure, right?
Correct.
So it's fair to say that based on what you were hearing Mr. Walshe say, it was clear to you, wasn't it, Sgt. Schmidt, that he was not going to agree to turn over his phone or have it reviewed unless and until he talked to Tracy Minor. Objection.
Well, let me have that one.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Just so I have it clear.
Sure. Probably wasn't a very articulate question. That it was clear to you, wasn't it, based on the responses that Mr. Walshe was giving to both you and Trooper DeChico, that he was not going to agree to either turn over his phone or to have you look at the communications without first talking to his attorney, Tracy Minor.
Yes.
At this point,
it seems like of all the cops who has testified and referenced, everybody says, yeah, everybody's in agreement. He did not agree to a complete search of everything before he talked to his attorney. And everything was in relation to communications between him and Mrs. Walsh.
at this point in the January 5th interview, is it fair to say that you, Sgt. Schmidt, you begin to interject and say, just so you're aware, if any peace of mind, we don't have a crime.
Yes, I did say that.
And we're not investigating a crime. This is a missing person.
Correct.
Can you tell the court why you, Sgt. Schmidt, made those statements at that time to Mr. Walsh?
It was the truth.
And why was it? What was the significance to you of making those statements?
He wasn't the subject of an investigation. We were there as a community caretaking function to assist in finding a missing person.
So, once again, Sergeant Schmidt, let me ask you this. Was that statement that you made to Mr. Walshe at that time, was that an effort to reassure him that what you found, if you found anything on the phone, that it couldn't be used against him without a search warrant? Was that you suggesting that to Mr. Walshe?
No, I wasn't thinking like that during that conversation.
Were you trying to reassure him that whatever you found on the phone, you, Sergeant Schmidt, would not intend to use it against him?
I was trying to tell him exactly why we were there.
He's trying to avoid saying it. Because you can lie to suspects. Sometimes you can even lie to witnesses of a crime. But if he states there is no crime, all of a sudden you're in a gray zone about where that you can lie, cops can lie. Because cops can lie, but it has to be within the involvement of a crime. And missing person is not a crime.
So at this point, after it became clear that Mr. Walshe was asking to talk to his attorney, Tracy Minor, before he made any agreements regarding his phone, then the subject matter of the inquiry on January 5th changed, didn't it? You started asking other questions about relative to your investigation. Correct?
Yes.
It's fair to say that during this January 5th interview that you were present for, that
am I going to stream this trial? Well, if it goes to trial and it fits my schedule, yeah, why not? Now, the trials I'm going to cover going in the next few months, YNW Melly retrial, the Donna Adelson trial. What else do I have? No, those are. I think those are the only two trials I know I'm going to cover. And if this doesn't collide with any of them, yeah, if this goes to trial, because we still don't know if the judge decides that, oh, the Turtle Boy. Yeah, I'm covering the Turtle Boy hearing on Monday, and you all gotta be here because I have a surprise for you. The Turtle Boy hearing on Monday, I am going to cover for a specific reason. And you're going to like it. But yeah, this trial, unless it collides with the two others, yeah, I'm going to cover it because this is really interesting. Not because of the crime in itself. Because, yeah, I know it's interesting. Nobody and everything, but these things happen all the time. What's interesting to me in this case are the cops, who are the same cops, more or less the same cops as in the Karen Reed case and the Sandra Birchmores case. That is what makes this case interesting to me.
you never asked Mr. Walshe anything about search histories or anything of the sort that might be on his phone, correct?
Correct.
And you never asked him anything about what is referred to as location data, correct?
Correct.
Did you ever see? I just have a moment, Judge. We take a cough drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Sorry about that. You were asking questions about, I'm going to jump ahead and come back to January 5th, but you were asking questions about the January 7th interview you were present for, correct?
Yes.
In the January 7th interview, for the first time, Mr. Walsh was told, it's important for us to create a timeline for you to avoid suspicion, correct? Words to that effect?
Yes.
That statement about creating a timeline to avoid suspicion being placed on Mr. Walsh, that was first made on January 7th, correct?
Yes.
And that was the evening of January 7th, correct?
The interview?
Yes.
No.
Okay. It was, what time was the January 7th interview?
About 2 p.m.
Okay. Afternoon.
Afternoon.
And it went on for quite some time.
About 2 hours.
And up to that point, on January 5th, it was never suggested that you needed to establish some kind of timeline to avoid suspicion, was it? That subject matter never came up on January 5th.
Correct.
It never came up on January 4th, correct?
Correct.
And when that suggestion was first made to Mr. Walsh on January 7th, the devices had already been turned over, correct?
This is the 7th?
Yes.
Yes.
And in fact, when that statement was made to Mr. Walsh on January 7th, the devices had actually already been returned to Mr. Walsh, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the issue here with the prosecutions and the investigators' timeline, is that not until after they searched the phone for Google searches and location data and everything, not until after then was when Mr. Walsh was presented with, hey, we need to check you out too, which tells me at least that they knew they fucked up. They knew. And now they had to create some kind of the going around to the kitchen door, through the cellar door, through the chimney, or whatever. Damn, we found really bad stuff on his phone without a warrant. We need to make shit up so we can say, if it comes back to bite us in the ass, we need to invent something so we can tell a judge we would have found out anyway. The thing here is, up until De Chico or Guarino or whoever it was, up until they went on a deep dive in his devices, this was a missing persons case. They might have had suspicions, but they kind of knew they were really not close to probable cause. Now, there's always a judge that will rubber stamp whatever they say, but they actively, in my opinion, chose to go in the phone, find something, and then do the workaround.
And in fact, when that statement was made to Mr. Walsh on January 7th, what's been referred to as an agreement as to what could be searched on the devices that had already been reached, correct?
To my understanding.
Okay, because when you say to my understanding, it's because you weren't involved in those quote negotiations.
Correct.
Did you ever see an email exchange between Assistant District Attorney Lynn Beelan and Attorney Tracy Martin?
Not at the time.
Not at the time.
Not at the time. I may have seen it since, but not at the time.
Okay, at the time, when you say not at the time, we're talking about up to at least January 7th of 2023.
Correct.
And so it's fair to say.
Is this cop trying to tell me, tell us, tell the court, tell the defense attorney that the district attorney came to an agreement with the defense attorney, but the DA never told any of what? Nah, not buying it. Not buying it.
Say that, is it fair to say, Sergeant, that on January 7th, when that was made, that comment about coming up with a timeline to avoid suspicion, you had no idea if that subject matter was included in the so-called agreement
Correct.
All you know is that that subject matter of coming up with a timeline to avoid suspicion was first made and broached on January 7th, 2023.
Yes.
Did you have any conversation on January 5th of 2023 about one of the children's iPads being broken or not working correct?
On the 5th. I don't recall.
Were you present at the house, Mr. Walsh's house, on January 6th of 2023?
At the moment, I don't recall specifically being there Friday the 6th.
You do or do not?
I do not.
You, it's fair to say you didn't write any report about being present on January 6th, correct? Being
don't-
present on January 6th.
I don't recall writing a report about being present on January 6th, the 5th. Excuse me, Friday the 6th.
You didn't write a report.
I don't remember writing a report about that.
So is it fair to say that you weren't involved in all the searches that were going on January 6th at Mr. Walsh's home?
I was.
Oh,
I see.
really?
So do you now remember being present on January 6th?
I was involved in the searching at the command post down the street.
Okay, but not at the home.
Correct.
Okay. That's fine.
Oh, you sneaky bastard. And no report. Where have you heard that one before? Jesus Christ.
Let me ask you this, Sergeant Schmidt. How long had you been a detective with Cohasset Police Department up to January of 2023?
About 8 years.
And it's fair to say in those 8 years, you went engaged to try to perhaps get someone's consent to turn over a device, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes those devices might include a cell phone or search of a car or anything like that, correct?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that Cohasset Police Department has a form that might be entitled consent to search or anything like that?
Yes.
And the reason for using a form like that, consent to search, is to make sure that there is a record evidence that the person you're asking for consent from, that they give their consent voluntarily.
Yes.
And you have a document that reflects that, correct?
Correct.
And in that document of consent to search, it'd be fair to say that you would also include what the parameters of the search is going to be, correct?
Yes.
And you do that because you don't want there to be any confusion down the road about what the person agreed to and what the person didn't agree to, correct?
Correct.
And one of the reasons you don't want that problem to arise is because you don't want your investigation, in whatever case those are, you don't want your investigation to be compromised and questioned whether that person actually gave their voluntary consent, correct?
Correct.
Have you ever seen in this case whether there was ever a consent to search any device used by either yourself, Cohasset Police Department, or the Mass State Police?
You asking about a form?
Yeah.
I did not see a form.
Have you ever worked with the Mass State Police in conjunction with any other case where you've seen them use a consent to search form?
I don't recall a specific investigation.
And specific to this case, though, and the consent to search, it's fair to say you didn't have any conversations with Attorney Tracy Minor. I don't know why I keep saying the name wrong. Tracy Minor, regarding Mr. Walsh consenting to any search.
Correct.
When you were talking and Trooper DeCicco was talking and asking Mr. Walsh questions on January 5th, we all agree that the only subject matter that was referenced specifically was, quote, communications, correct?
Yes.
And when you use that word communication, you are in fact, is it fair to say you're talking about things like text messages?
Yes.
And maybe voicemails?
Yes.
Maybe emails?
Yes.
And you're really, when you use that word communication, you're just using it in its common parlance, correct? Communication, discussions between one person and another person are persons, correct?
I'd say that just the sharing of information is communication.
Okay. Between two people.
People.
Not Google searches.
When you were asked questions on direct examination about someone by the name of Abdullah coming to the house, did you conduct any further investigation of this person named Abdullah?
Further from that moment,
Yes.
I did not.
Okay. Is it fair to say, Sergeant Schmidt, that in the January 5th interview that you participated in of Mr. Walsh, that the phrase, quote, marital privilege was never used?
I don't recall it being used.
And is it fair to say, Detective Schmidt, that during the entire interview of January 5th, the only dates that were discussed in your presence during this interview was December 31st, January 1st, and in the days thereafter, words to that effect, correct? Do you recall, Sergeant Schmidt, if anything was referenced in that January 5th interview about looking at data back to December 25th of 2022?
I don't recall that in the interview.
This selective memory loss always astounds me. Or to be frank, it doesn't surprise me because I've heard it so many times. So many times.
What was done to investigate the Richard Walker email?
The forensic specialists of the state police conducted a search warrant for Google and the records they hold to look into that email address.
And the Richard Walker email, just when did that come to you again?
The morning of the 7th.
And also, sir, when you were asked about Abdullah on cross-examination, did you ever have the opportunity to interview that individual?
I did.
When?
I believe it was the 5th.
And during the interviews,
And all of a sudden, his memory's back, folks. It's a miracle. He regained his memory. Woo! Jesus Christ.
during the interview of January 5th, what difficulty did you have hearing the defendant when you were discussing looking through or downloading his phone?
None.
And in addition to discussing the tone and communications, what was discussed as far as timeline when looking through his phone?
It would help investigators establish a permanent timeline.
And sir, you were asked questions about communications when in digital devices. What do you consider an online chat via a web page?
Communication.
Yeah, but was it between Mr. Walsh and Mrs. Walsh?
The defendant tell you as far as, may I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
What was Attorney Minor representing the defendant for when you were discussing her initially?
Federal investigation.
And when you were there, what involvement did you have with this federal investigation? You were interviewing the defendant on these times.
None.
And so why were you interviewing the defendant on these days?
To find a missing person on a Walsh.
What knowledge did you have about the federal investigation when you went to interview him?
Or what he had told me.
One more moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the car, sir, when you were asked about, you said it was in, the plastic sheet was in the trash. Did you see the plastic sheet?
No.
And what did you notice as far as any difference in the car when you looked at it?
There were like vacuum, what I would assume were vacuum marks, like if you have the different swipes on the carpet.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any recross?
Brief.
You never used the word, in the context of communications in asking Mr. Walsh questions, something about online chat and webpage, did you?
During the interview?
Yes.
No,
What do you mean by that?
I don't understand the question.
You were asked just now on redirect if you considered communications, online chat, and web pages, and your answer was yes.
Yes,
What are you referring to?
you'd be communicating and sharing information between people through an online chat function on a website.
Okay. In all the discussions you had with Mr. Walsh based on, grounded in January 4th, January 5th, and even on January 7th, there was no discussion about online chats using a particular web page, was there?
Not a particular web page, but the JetBlue specifically.
And you went to JetBlue. Did you go to JetBlue and talk to them about information relative to Anna Walsh?
I did not.
Do you know who did?
Initially, patrol units had requested the state police assigned to Logan Airport to coordinate with JetBlue to see if there were any travel records.
Isn't it fair to say then that with regard to specifically to any web chat, chat on a web page, that the Mass State Police learned that there was nothing communicated between Anna Walsh and JetBlue on or around December 31st, January 1st, or thereafter?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's all I have.
Right. The witness may step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.